Fishing is brought to you by Culprit, confidence with every cast. Phoenix Boats, experience the difference. And Power Pole, swift, silent, secure.
Today we're fishing midsummer. All the big lakes are really tough right now. There's jet skiers and skiers everywhere. The fish have gotten deep, but they're deep and suspended. So the best thing to do today for me was to come to a small pond. And we're hopefully gonna catch a lot of fish and maybe some big fish and teach you a little bit about how to break down a pond. So let's go see what we can do. I'm starting out fishing down the dam. I really like fishing the dam first because that gives me an idea of how deep the fish can be. In the midsummer like this, the ponds tend to get stratified, which means there's a layer of hot water at the top and cold water at the bottom. And typically the cold water at the bottom has no oxygen in it. So the fish are gonna be above that level. So by fishing the dam, it's the deepest water, I'll be able to tell how deep the fish will be for the rest of the pond. So if I get no bites out deep, I know not to fish the rest of the pond deep. Got it. He's peeling off. Decent fish. That big old worm. Yeah, just like on a reservoir in June. Now, a 10-inch worm, when they're hungry in June, when they move off those beds and they're in a full-scale feed mode, that big old worm is the ticket. Right in there, toward the end of that log, yes. Biggin'. That's awesome. I just made a pitch where I just assumed the end of the log would be, and I got right. I got that fish. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good one right there, middle of the summer. You know, I've fished this pond a lot over the years, and I've never thrown a 10-inch worm in this particular pond. And so far, I've gotten 2 bites and they've both been nice. Right. I pitched that in there and I picked up and I didn't feel the weight of the worm, and I said, that's a big one. Anytime you make a pitch and you pick up and you don't feel any weight at all, a fish has got it and it's swimming towards you, so set the hook. That happens a lot when you let your bait sink on a slack line because you're not in contact with it, so you don't feel some of the bites. The majority of the time when you cast the bait in there, you want it to fall straight down into the cover. And I took a wild guess on where that log was. Anytime you're fishing with a big worm, the tail and the body of the worm has so much resistance. When it falls, it tends to fall slower than your weight, so your weight would tend to slide up the line like that, leaving the worm not falling with the weight. It makes it harder to feel bites. So what I do is use a little tiny bobber stopper, and that keeps it pegged and lets everything fall as one unit, and that way you have a whole lot better feel, and the bait's gonna get down into the cover where the fish are. Brimmer. That's a bass. I thought that was a brim. Good night. Something exploded right in front. Little guy on a 10-inch worm. Something big just blew up right in front of my boat. They ain't on the, they're not on the bottom. At least out off the bank they're not. Every one of them's bit at reeling it. Golly. What have I got? A stick. Golly. Ugh. I hammered it. Little guy. You know, when you're fishing these ponds, you'll notice at different times of the day, you'll catch different sizes of fish. Like when you start catching big ones, you'll catch all big ones. When you start catching little ones, it'll be all little ones. It's curious to me. I haven't figured that out.
No Fishing is brought to you by Culprit Lures, Phoenix Boats, and Power Pole.
Oh, he hammered that. That's a decent one. Out here on the flat. Crankbait. Now I switched to the crankbait because I started getting less bites on the worm, and I actually think when the fish get inactive is when you want to throw the crankbait, because I just bumped a fish the cast before that, and I really think that they just react to the crankbait, whereas the big worm, they need to be feeding to bite that. You notice how on this crankbait here, I'm fishing with my rod up, because this water back here is all like about 3 feet deep. And this crankbait runs 5, and I don't want it to dig down in too deep. So keeping that angle high, trying to keep it just barely bumping the bottom every now and then. Oh, I felt solid right there. Yes, sir, I think I got me a toad. Oh gosh, don't break my line. It's wrapped around something. I can feel my line tangled on it. Okay. Yep. Oh yeah, good one. I know my line is seriously messed up. Oh, that's a nice one right there. Woo, middle of the day. Ah, look at that one. That's not a bad one for 95-degree weather in the middle of the summer. Man, I thought for sure he was gonna bust me off, because when I hooked it, he got under something and I felt it going on the stick or whatever it was, and I thought for sure he was gonna bust me off. Whew. Good one. You probably noticed when I'm fishing this crankbait, I'm stopping, starting, and popping my rod a lot. And that's simply because there's hardly any cover on this flat that I'm fishing. I'm trying to change the direction of the bait to get a reaction bite. If you have a lot of cover around, the cover itself when you're banging into it will help you get a lot of bites. But in this open water like this, you got to be constantly jerking your rod, stopping your reel, just to get the fish to react to the bait. See, like a foot, and that, ooh, it feels like a good one. Yes. Oh yeah, another good one. Oh, he is really big. Middle of the day, they got inactive on that big worm. This guy is just digging down. He is a monster too. Oh my goodness, look at that thing. Oh my gosh. I don't know how big he is. I'm thinking, oh, he might be a 10-pounder. Oh, look at that thing. That's a total toad. Yeah, I don't think he's quite 10. He's 8-ish, but he is a monster. Look how he ate that crankbait too. His eyes are bugging out the top of his head. Look at that. When you catch them like that, you know they're giant. Big old bug eye. Man, let me get these hooks out and get him back in because the water's so hot. You do not want to hurt a fish this big. Oh my gosh. I could put 2 of my hands down in that thing. Whew, I'm gonna give him a little drink. Oh my goodness. I don't like it's so hot outside. I'm gonna show y'all this thing one more time. Look how long and pretty that fish is. Beautiful. Whew. I don't like to gawk at them too long when it's this hot. What a beautiful fish. Bye-bye. Man. All right. You know, I've been fishing a 10-inch worm a lot and I've caught some nice fish on it. But when the bite slows down on one thing, I generally, and I've said this before, I like to fish something faster when the fish quit biting to get those reaction bites. And when you have an expansive flat like we're on here, it's, you know, a couple 100 yards across this pond, and it's 3 to 4 feet deep max on this flat. And, you know, the fish not necessarily on the bottom, they're just all out here roaming around, and they might be up off the bottom a little bit. So crankbait's tough to beat on a big, huge flat. What a great day. You know, I started out fishing that big worm and had some really good luck catching some nice fish with it. But midday approached and I started noticing the fish were up off the bottom and they were getting smaller. So I made an adjustment, switched to a crankbait, ended up catching 2 really big fish and had a really good time. So next time you're out on the water, don't be afraid to switch. You start catching little fish or they're different in how you're catching them, make a switch to a different kind of lure and maybe you'll get big ones too. So now you know. Oh my gosh, it's hot. I think we got the good out of that pond. The big uns is